Welcome to Cancer and Peace Moments. This is Peter. These moments are 15-minute clips of the larger episodes. Blessings.
Flip it over to you and just let you kick off in your own thoughts here, and we'll get rolling here.
Okay, thanks, Sean. I appreciate this topic, and it's quite a massive topic. So I guess one of the ways, do we handle it chronologically, subject-wise, or whatever? But I'm just going to say at the onset, a person is traveling in their life, and all of a sudden, at least that's what it feels like.
I'll caveat here a bit
Sure.
too, because I have a sense that there's going to be two big categories. One is a cancer diagnosis that is terminal.
Okay.
And one is that a cancer diagnosis that's more likely known as curable in some way.
Okay.
That I would think that list is going to look a little different if you've been given a terminal diagnosis, I'm going to guess. You can tell me if you think I'm wrong about that. But
yeah, I think that most of what we discuss is for any cancer patient, because there's certain things that person is woken up to, shall I say, that they haven't really considered that much. For instance, I'm just going to lay this out, even though we're not at the time yet to talk about it, but an estate plan. This is something that the person may have said to themselves, well, that someday I'm going to do a will and all that. And just any cancer event would be, oh, okay, I'm going to get serious about that. But I think that it is I know we talked about an identity shift early on for our podcast, that suddenly you're thrust into this whole other world. And it feels like that. I mean, I've just surpassed, I'm in my 18th year, and I know I'm a cancer patient, but I know who I am. I'm Peter. I'm a father. I'm lots of stuff. I'm a son. I'm a brother. I'm a Christian guy, and cancer is just something that I struggle with. So it's not really, and it gives me a platform for ministry. So I don't identify myself as I am the cancer patient. I just say cancer is something that I struggle with. And a lot of us struggle with a lot of things.
So I want to rephrase that, right?
Yeah. Okay. Rephrase
it. There's something that gets foisted upon you.
Yes.
And there's a temptation to take on the identity of a cancer patient, and it's something you actually have to work against, that recognizing being a cancer patient is not your identity. It's a struggle that you're in. I think, is that a good way of rephrasing what you just said, is that
and
it is not who you are,
but
it is something that is going to impact your life. It's a struggle that's going to impact your life.
Yeah. And I think I love the way you phrase that. Just had very good friends of ours who their 27-year-old son got diagnosed in December with tongue and neck cancer. And last Friday night, he passed at the age of 27, good friends of my kids. And so I don't want to think of this individual as he's the cancer patient.
Right.
He was a great guy, great son, great brother, was just a wonderful man in his own right, and cancer was that thing that took him. But nevertheless, when you are in the cancer world, when you're thrust into it, suddenly you have this diagnosis beyond your control. All of a sudden it presents itself with a whole host of decisions to be made. And the medical community, they don't sit down with you and give you a checklist. And so a lot of times the family or your close friends and supporters will say, well, why don't you talk to this person? They've been dealing with cancer for a long time.
Right.
And many times I'll get calls as people are sort of facing their diagnosis, just to see what I've done. And I'm sure they call other cancer patients also. And so I think I do have, after 18 years and 17 years running a support group, I think I do have some common things, a common checklist that everyone sort of goes through. Getting this cancer diagnosis and sitting down and someone does a comprehensive list for you. You might want to consider, items 1 through 10, let's say.
Yeah. And I think that was where we got to when we were talking about what's number one on the list was, though, to basically get your medical plan in order.
Yeah. So can we launch into it?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think so many times the person has received their diagnosis, and maybe I'm going to phrase all this as if I was advising or coming alongside or partnering with this person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would have a lot of questions about the diagnosis and what happened to get the diagnosis. I've noticed through my journey that pathology is key. That treatment and everything depends on getting the correct read on that cell to be absolutely correct. And some cancer centers are known for their really quality pathology. And usually that sample is sent out to like 3 different hospitals so they can all weigh in on what that pathology is. So that's usually one of my concerns is, hey, are you comfortable with pathology? The other thing these days that didn't come up when I first got diagnosed with cancer, but does now is, what's going on genetically in the sense of mutations, because a lot of times the mutations within the tumor will determine what treatment to use. And so, I might ask someone those questions, but it's, and depending on where they got their diagnosis, but usually if they receive their diagnosis from their local hospital, let's say, I'll say, it's worth it to get a second opinion because we live so close to major cancer centers. There are hospitals that have cancer centers in them, like your local hospital, but there are major cancer centers that all they deal with is cancer. They're huge. They do all the research. They have all the state-of-the-art stuff to do with it. And I'll say, well, let's go for a second opinion. And so because of my proximity to Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center down in New York City, and they're arguably number 1 or number 2 usually as far as cancer centers go, I'll drive down with them. We'll go down, or they'll just go down by themselves just to get a second opinion. And I think if you stay within the traditional medical world, that really provides a lot of peace of, okay, I can rest in this area that I have the best in the nation that are in traditional medicine looking at it. And some people want to explore alternatives or supplement the traditional medical route. And so there's questions to be asked there. Does your oncologist weigh in on what sort of supplements you're taking and all that? And I only comment on that if I'm asked. Yeah, usually it's okay. Let's make sure your diagnosis was correct. Pathology is correct. Let's get a second opinion and make sure the protocol here is what is the best protocol going. I'm just going to say, if I stayed locally, I would not be here today. I ended up at Memorial Sloan Kettering and had quite a different journey with them than what was recommended for me locally. So, going to a major cancer center probably was a life-saving measure for me personally. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. Recognizing that you're not alone and there are people with shared struggles, such a big, healthy thing. So I'm going to hit this last one and you could probably talk for an hour on this one. So, but just to touch base on it, we've talked quite a bit on it, but it is processing your emotions.
Yeah.
That's number 5 on the list. Processing your emotions.
Yeah. I think what I'm going to say about it briefly is when you're ready, when I'm ready, unless I must process. There were times I had to process my emotions to get out of the pit. But personally, I was an emotion stuffer, so I was like a neophyte. I was a kindergartner in my emotional health. So it's been a long journey for me to actually, maybe I'm a high schooler now, I don't know, but to become acquainted with myself and to be able to ask myself Am I scared? Am I hurting, exhausted, angry, resentful, tense? The heart check is always a big one for me. But what am I feeling right now? And then to be honest enough to admit it to myself, to God, and to someone that I trust. And the unbelievable freedom and healing that comes from being able to allow those emotions to bubble up and bubble out, and then to process them. And then I know how to pray. I know what scriptures to look at. I mean, just an incredible guide. We've done so much with this Pete Scazzero, and I love when he says, and I think emotions, that they get buried alive, they don't die. And so I want to resurrect them and
they're such an
uncover.
Important part of who we are. And there's something in culture for some time that has been that, real men don't show emotion, these types of things. And I think what hopefully we practiced it here today is that I saw you feel and express emotion, and rather than just breezing past it, we stopped and I asked you, and you were able just to share, this is what's going on inside of me. This is why I feel what I feel. And knowing that and being able to express that is such an important thing in our journeys for recovery. And I think for peace in a cancer journey, if you stuff your emotions, I believe you won't feel peace. You may feel nothingness, but you won't feel peace, because when you stuff negative emotions, you stuff the positive ones too. That's a Brene Brown concept. And so you feel peace. And to feel peace, you actually have to process your other emotions. And so those are our 5 for today. And so we've gone a little long, but next time I'll try to clamp down on Peter's exhaustiveness.
Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Blessings.